Hello, hello. This is another installment of Cage's Comments. I am Alex Cage, and today we will be wrapping up the NBA Finals and looking forward on the Spurs side of things to the offseason coming up here with the draft and free agency. I'll have more videos out, but we're going to wrap up. I did the Knicks on Saturday and then needed a couple days for my grief. No, also I have a day job, so I couldn't get to it. But we'll talk about the Spurs today. So I did the Knicks on Saturday. We'll talk Spurs today, and then we'll head into the NBA offseason and start doing some football stuff too. Um, Fantasy football should be right around the corner. I don't know how much of that I'll talk, but we'll do some football things as we move on. But all that being said, the Spurs. Uh, Objectively, a great season. They came into the year with a win total at 44.5 and championship odds at plus 6,600. They ended the season with 62 wins and in the finals losing in 5. That is just objectively a great season. Now the way that they lost the finals, getting out to a lead in the first quarter in every single game, and then blowing double-digit leads in every single game, with the top of that being, or the worst of that, I guess, being the 29-point blowout or a 29-point loss, lead blown. Excuse me, can't talk. Still traumatized by that. Is a horrible way to end. So I've been sitting there thinking for the last couple of days, like, what's the best either analogy or like how can I encapsulate this? And so I'm going to steal from Bill Simmons and make a movie analogy that involves a Boston actor in Ben Affleck. Affleck, excuse me. So it's not a super popular movie, but I don't know. I watched it. I enjoyed it right up until the end. This is kind of the point here. It's called The Way Back. Affleck plays a former high school basketball player that was really good, down in rough times in life, bit of a drinking problem, starts coaching the local team. They're having great success, and then he relapses. And then he does, what you're supposed to do. He starts taking responsibility for himself, he goes to rehab. He's going to start recovering. He's going to start making his life better. And as I was sitting here watching this movie with my then girlfriend, now wife, I was enjoying it. I'm like, okay, cool, great. We're going to see him turn his life around. And then the movie just ended. And you like have some hope that he's gonna turn his life around, but then the movie ends, so you don't actually see it. And I was just aghast at that, and it kind of ruined how I felt, at least in the moment, about the whole movie. I was just like, Jesus, that's brutal. What do you like? What do you got? All my hopes up. I thought we were gonna we see you. We thought you were gonna turn the corner, and then we just didn't get to see it. And the Spurs were they were too inexperienced to go on this run, right? And I remember one of my buddies putting in our group chat during one of the games that during one of the game 1 or 2 in the finals that they were too inexperienced. Spurs, and I said they were too inexperienced to get here. They were supposed to be too inexperienced to get here. And then they beat a team that had been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals, and they beat the defending champs. That can't possibly be why. And then they blew the first 2 double-digit leads, and Wemby had that pass, and it was horrible. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this stinks. And then I said, but I didn't give up on them yet. They needed to go to New York, and they needed to get both games. And then they win game 3, and they are up 29, and we have reached we are turning. We had the relapse, we had the young mistakes, but we're gonna turn it around here. We're up 29, gonna tie the series 2-2, go back to San Antonio, and then the season basically just ended. Actually, it would have been better for me personally if the season had just ended right there. because unlike the movie, we did not get the little bit of hope at the end. He basically he relapsed again. Right, like the equivalent would have been if Ben Affleck's character had relapsed again. That's a horrific way to end the season, but ultimately still a great season for the Spurs, and any of the long term hope, optimism for this team should absolutely still be there. So that's how that felt. You guys can let me know if any of you have even seen The Way Back, or if you think that's just a garbage analogy or not. But that's how I felt. It was a great season. Horrible way and a horrible way to watch it end and feel it end, because you were up in each of these games, so you kind of walk away feeling like we could have, right? Even if maybe this team actually couldn't have, because this team didn't have the guy to go get a bucket at the end of these games, or that guy was Dylan Harper and figured that out too soon, or too late rather. So I talked in the changing gears here. I talked in the next episode about how interesting it was going to be to watch and see people how high can Brunson rise. I said I think this makes him the sixth best player. I still don't think he's as good as Giannis, Shea, Luka, Jokic, Wemby, and I still think Wemby's the best player in the world. But that conversation has been going on, and greatest Nick ever, not according to his father though. And I think I saw a tweet that Simmons said he's better than Nat, basically every guard that hasn't won a title. I don't know how far I can raise a guy that's never been first team All NBA, never been truly in the MVP conversation off of one great playoff run. And don't get me wrong, he's a great playoff performer, but no one before this run would have. I don't think anyone before this run would have had him in the same class as like Chris Paul, who also never won a title, right? So I don't know that I can move him up quite in that same way, but that is something that's going to happen. Conversely, as this is a Spurs episode, Wemby, can he fall from his perch? Can he have the shortest run of best player alive maybe ever? I said before the Western Conference Finals that I thought Wemby was going to have a LeBron-esque 48 special. Here I am. I'm the best player in the world moving forward. And I thought he would have it in the back half of that series, and he had it in game one. And he went 40. He did his best Hakeem Olajuwon impression of trying to steal the MVP from the guy who won it. 40 and 20, awesome game. And it felt like at that point, most people were like, all right, that's it. He's the best player in the world now. That's just a fact of life moving forward. And now with how this series went, is that in question? So I don't think it is. So I made the LeBron comparison before the Western Conference Finals. So I will kind of continue that analogy. LeBron, if you remember, in his first finals, got swept by the Spurs. He shot 35% from the field that finals, and turned the ball over 6 times a game. 22, 7, and 7 with 6 turnovers on 35% from the field. Not at all an impressive finals. Now, we don't know what Wemby will do post this finals yet. LeBron, post that finals, made the playoffs every single year, won a couple of MVPs, and then before he got back to the finals again against Dallas, where he was, that's the black mark on his career for most people, I think, is the 2011 finals, where he similarly did not come up clutch in the biggest moments. He had a 2-1 finals lead and lost it. He had 18 points in 6 games in the fourth quarter total. if LeBron can do all of that, and he did that, right? The 07 finals was his second time in the postseason, not his first. It was the same age as Wemby, but it was his second time in the postseason, not his first. So he had another playoff run under him. And then again, with more accolades, more experience, more playoff runs, still crumble at age 26 and hold and maintain the best player alive belt, you know, the whole time, then I think it is more than fair and correct to say, yeah, Wemby's still the best player alive. That going 26, 11, and 5 stocks on 42% from the field, which for a 7-footer is just god awful. That guy who in his first playoff run for the whole run is 24, 11, 4.5 stocks on 62% true shooting percentage, that guy's still the best player in the world. Does he have flaws? Yeah, of course he does. Has he made himself a bit unlikable in this postseason run? Yeah, he has, fairly. But ultimately, he's 22. He absolutely got better, I think, basically every single month this season. He still needs to get stronger. He still has some flaws in his game. He's got to find a way to, to be able to get a bucket more reliably. But I think he's still the best player in the world, and I don't think it is like crazy or unfair or like biased towards, like, we've done this, we've seen this before, where players struggle in their first finals and then they still maintain their stature in the league. So I think Wemby's still the best player. I think the LeBron comp is completely fair there. And kind of side note on that as well, if we're talking about being kind of like on pace for being in the GOAT discussion, I mean, he absolutely is. Again, a finals appearance in your first playoff run in year 3 is about as good as it gets when you then add on the first team all defense, defensive player of the year, first team all NBA, third in MVP voting. Like, he had the individual accolades and he matched it with the team's success this year to absolutely still be on pace for that kind of discussion. We'll see if he has the longevity, if he makes the improvements needed. But all of that stuff for Wemby, I don't think should be just like, taken away. It's all fictitious anyway, so I just can't take it. But all of that for Wemby, I think, is still in play and still completely fair, as is the criticisms of his game. Just like LeBron and hey, you need to get a jump shot, my guy. You need to be able to score a little more reliably from the perimeter. You need to not be able to get stopped by Tony Parker and JJ Barea. That can't be an effective, method of stopping you. So, Wemby can't be, hey man, how do you stop Wemby? Well, you just get Karl Anthony Towns or a really big 7-footer, and he just puts his hand on your hip every time you drive. And if the refs don't call a hand check, then you can't move. So he's got flaws, he's got things to work on, but ultimately I still think best player in the world, on pace for whatever the case of the long-term stuff, is still all in play. And trying to kind of knock that down, I think, is a little ahistorical, given the previous, GOATs path to that. So that's Wemby. That's the finals. Moving forward for the Spurs, what needs to be done and what are you kind of hoping for? So from a development standpoint, I think there are 3 things that are super important. And the first is not Wemby. It's not actually the thing that I'm most worried about. Harper, Castle. One of you. Ostensibly, both of you. Preferably, both of you, but at least one of you has got to get a reliable 3 point and also a mid range, since you're going to be the guys with the ball in your hand in a, hopefully in a 2-man game with Wimby, an in between game as well, so you can be a legitimate 3-level threat scoring. It will help spacing. It is the only way, and I do think this is where the Spurs are headed to start next season at least. It might be the only way that the 3-guard lineup works. You can't have Fox, Castle, and Harper all on the floor together and none of them are reliable shooters. It just doesn't work that way. So one of you two, and Fox is, again, I will talk a bit about that, but Fox is in, year 8 or whatever, and at this point he's a 33% career three-point shooter. He's going to be around 33%. It is unrealistic to think that that's something he's going to add. He is the only one of the three that will consistently take the mid-range jump shot, and one of those two guards, I have more faith in Harper being able to do it than Castle, but one of you two has to get a reliable. They have to get a reliable jump shot. The next thing is Wimby. Strength and conditioning, obviously. He's got to be able to have back-to-back games where he just attacks the paint relentlessly. And look, I don't think Wimby is ever going to be a big guy. I know some people have pointed to hey, he needs to get on that Giannis workout thing. The Giannis workout thing may be also partially that Giannis was maybe living on the bare minimum from a nutrition standpoint growing up, that he just it wasn't just the workout regimen, but it was finally having a true excess of calories and food. I think to stay in, I guess, in the country, he needs to look at Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is not a big dude, but he is very, very strong, and he is strong enough to play with Jokic and play strength for strength with Jokic and, ostensibly Karl-Anthony Towns, while still maintaining his ability to move defensively. So I'm not worried about Wimby not being able to do that. It might take more than it. Right, it might be another year, but I'm not worried that he won't ever reach that point. And the third thing from development for the Spurs is Carter Bryant. Can you carve yourself out a real role? He can be a amazing defender, and he has the ability to change games. I'm a Spurs season ticket holder. I have a 10-game package, so I go about once or twice a month to a Spurs game. I was at the Clipper game where they came back from 25 down, and he 100% got in that game and changed the entire tenor of that game with his defense. I think he only scored 5 points in that game, but it was him, and then it was Champagnie knocking down threes and getting hot from 3 that enabled the Spurs to go on the run, because Wimby only played 21 minutes that night or something. He can do that. He is athletic enough, he is dogged enough defensively, and he has the correct kind of body at 6'6", long arms, and he's well built, right? He's a big dude, strong guy. The Spurs could really use that next season, and if he can take the Keldon Johnson minutes, that would be amazing, right? So those are the 3 things that, from a development standpoint, that I think the Spurs need. Harper and Castle, get a jump shot, please. Wimby, get stronger. And Bryant, just, develop in year 2 and be able to carve out a role as a 3-and-D guy. I was texting with a buddy of mine from in Houston, and during playoffs, and we were like, Kobe Bryant reminds me a lot of Tari Eason. Now, I hope that he learns and isn't necessarily ending up at exact as frustrated as at least some of the Houston fans I know are with Tari Eason. But that kind of archetype of player, of a super athletic, can be very impactful defensively, and then if he can knock down, if he can space to the corner and knock down threes, I think he can make himself a lot of money in this league doing that because of how good he can be defensively. If he can go to the PJ Tucker school of corner threes and just be reliable there, so you don't hurt the spacing. I also think he's got real upside as a play finisher with cuts and in transition. But for next season, if he could just be a dog defensively and not screw up on offense quite as much, that would be huge, I think, for the Spurs. Spurs also have some roster questions. And this is where we'll talk about Fox after what I think is the number one thing that they need. I think they need a power forward, a true power forward. The Spurs have a bunch of. They have Fox, who's like 6'3". They have Wimby, who's $7 million, and they have a bunch of 6'5", 6'6" guards who have to masquerade as small and power forwards. Keldon Johnson is a 6'5" power forward. That ain't great. Champagnie is a 6'7". He's really a guard. He's not really a forward. He rebounds pretty well for a guy his size and in his position, but you'd rather see him as like a movement small forward, movement shooter small forward, as opposed to having to play the four. So I really think that they need a power forward, and that should be one of the things that they target in a draft. If the rest of the league is terrified of the fact that Yaxel Linderbaugh is 24, wouldn't mind, obviously, if he fell, but moving up, that could be really worth it. In the free agency, I saw a tweet today from I think NBA Central, but Windhorst reporting that the Lakers and LeBron are working on a new contract. That could be really, really helpful for the Spurs if Rui Hachimura, who is an unrestricted free agent, if the Spurs talk to him and be like, hey, you want to be the starting power forward? We would love your rebounding, defense, and floor stretching ability. That'd be great. So I think I will end up making like a whole offseason plan video, so I'll save full thoughts kind of for that. But a true power forward that can space the floor, I think, would be super helpful for the Spurs to just give them a little more versatility and a little more size outside of Wimby, right? So we'll talk about it. The De'Aaron Fox of it all. So the thing about Fox is he was awful in the finals. There's no way about it. And the whole playoff run, watching every single game, as you watched, you were like, it's Dylan Harper who's the best guard tonight. It's Castle who's the next best guard tonight. You know what? Fox had a nice game here. And that's really not how it should be, right? It should be Fox is there every night, and then Castle and Harper, the rookie and the second year player, are the ones who are more up and down in their performance. And so I understand. And look, he's making $50 million, and it's a knee jerk. You trade him, it's horrible. Trade. Here's the thing. According to Data Ball R, which is a great stats website that I like, and they do lineup data. In the playoffs, net rating, Fox Castle lineups. +7. Castle Harper lineups, +11. Harper Fox lineups, +14. So, look, there can be noise to, just two-man lineups and things of that nature. But Fox, even as someone who does not make shots, saves you from having Castle run point guard at scale. And I know that the knee-jerk response, or the initial, I should stop saying knee-jerk, but the response is, well, Harper's going to run point. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Castle has made it very clear in the draft process that he thought he was a point guard and that he wanted to play point guard. The Spurs have indulged, endorsed, allowed that to be the case. He also is the weakest shooter of this bunch, which makes playing him off ball not quite as palatable. So my point on this is I am very confident next season that when the Spurs, and this should be part of a huge goal during next regular season, is finding your best five-man lineup. I am very positive that Harper and Wemby are going to be in the best five-man lineup. I'm very confident that Castle's going to play in that lineup. I am not nearly as confident as I feel like most people are that Castle is actually, that A, he has another level to get to, and B, that he will actually be the best pairing with Fox. I made a video when that trade first happened, and it was on a different channel when I was doing something similar to this with my friend Steven. And I said, one of the things that I didn't love about the Fox trade, and this is before we knew that they got Harper, was that neither Fox or Castle are great three-point shooters, and it's hard to have, unreliable two guards that are not super reliable, right? It's nearly impossible to have three on the floor at the same time. Fox isn't a great three-point shooter, but he's not terrible. And if Harper can also get to the point of not, reliable-ish, that's going to be a better way of attacking off of Wemby, and then spacing hopefully with two shooters, and then obviously Wemby's own gravity. So I don't think the Spurs should. I also don't think that the contract is quite the issue everyone is making it out to be. It feels horrible after watching the finals and thinking $50 million. But one of the things that I think Spurs fans need to... all of the Spurs' best players are on rookie contracts. So, the money is kind of moot at this point. And trying to trade him now may not even really be in the best interest of the team in terms of what you could get back from him. And also trying to trade that contract right now with all of the years left. I think next offseason is probably a more apt time when you've seen whether or not Castle got a jump shot, what Harper really and fully turns into. So for now, I think the contract is not something to be as worried about. It's $50 million. It's not great, but again, Wemby's extension hasn't kicked in yet. Castle's extension hasn't kicked in yet. Harper's extension has, none of those guys we're not to a point where it's like, well, he's not taking money away from anybody. And if anything, the fact that he's at $50 million, if you ever do go looking for a trade, gives you a ton of trading options to salary match with. So again, I don't think that contract is quite near, that situation is quite nearly as dire as it feels like directly after the finals. But he was awful. I mean, he was god awful. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think Castle necessarily covered himself in glory. I came out of the finals very confident that Dylan Harper is awesome. And my only questions with Harper now really are from a how good can he get standpoint is he going to be a Chris Middleton, Jamal Murray to Wemby's Jokic or Giannis, or can he be a Kobe to Wemby's Shaq? And just like, can he be a superstar himself in his own right? So we'll see, but I don't think the Fox thing is quite as nearly dire as it feels, and I'm not sure that moving on from him right now is even the best idea. There's one more quick thing. The Champagnie extension. So he's got 1 year. He's got 1 year left on his deal. It's a team option for $3 million. I just mentioned that all the Spurs' best players are on rookie contracts. Champagnie is going to get, I think, somewhere between $20 and $30 million. I am less concerned about the actual yearly pay as I am the structure of his deal. So if they can get him to take a 5-year deal where in the first year he makes $30 million, but by the end of the deal he's making 20 because they get the declining structure, so they kind of front load it, that is really good. The other thing about Champagnie is, and I may be coming at this from a, like, Alex, do you think everyone hates Champagnie? I don't know if everyone hates it, but I have one particular friend in the group chat that doesn't like him. So I am kind of a Champagnie defender in that regard. He's 6'7". He makes a high percentage of his threes, and he's a pretty good defender. That is an archetype of player that is useful to have in the rotation, that almost everyone finds useful. And if they overpay him a little bit, again, it's probably okay, because down the line, when they need to match a salary or move one, as long as he has not fallen off a complete cliff, which I do not think he will do given that he's 23, that's a useful player at a salary then that gives you options in terms of finding good players to get in return. So don't be shocked if that number is a little higher than you think. I'm really more worried about whether or not he gets a escalating contract, a flat contract, or a declining one. The structure of that, I think, is actually way more important in some regards than the number itself. So that is, I think this is the longest comments I've had. We're right at about 30 minutes. So thanks you guys for listening. Subscribe. Let me know what you agree, disagree with in the comments, like all that good stuff. Appreciate it. Talk to you guys next time.